Let me introduce one of our colleagues, eminent colleague, Professor Reem Salam. Professor Reem Salam is a professor at our Ain Shams Medical Biochemistry Department and now at Galala University. Reem will present functional foods and health and nutritional biochemistry perspective. Yes, please, Dr. Reem.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sana, and thank you very much for the generous invitation for being in this outstanding Congress. So I don't know how to shift. Okay. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The presentation is titled, as Dr. Sana has mentioned, Functional Food and Health. To start with, before starting my presentation, I have to tell you that many mechanistic studies are missing in this area. So many things that I will be showing are only observation, and the goal of my study is to just encourage people to go into this area and maybe to study in more details the mechanistic base of such claimed health benefits. So the talk outline, I will just in the beginning mention an overview with the working definitions, because I was being asked what is functional food. Every food is having a function. So what is functional food? Definition according to international authorities. Then I will share with you the classification very briefly, and then some of the impact on the metabolic health. And to start with, all of us maybe have heard this phrase before of Hippocrates, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food, meaning that we can use food in therapy, and therapy will affect also our health, therapeutic food, I mean. But what makes functional food different than any other food? Functional food actually are conventional foods. They are not taken in pills or capsules or syrups or anything. They are conventional food. But these conventional food either have inherent materials, bioactive materials in them, or have been added to them some bioactive materials in order to target specific physiological function. So some of the functional food are inherently having the bioactive materials, and others have been fortified, enriched, or enhanced with these biogenic or active materials. But anyway, they are agreeing that functional food are more than just nutrition, although they might look as the regular vegetables, fruits, nuts, whole grains, seafoods, or some fortified foods, like, for example, the calcium-rich orange juice that we find, the vitamin D-enriched milk, or the grains with added fibers, or the omega-3 enhanced eggs. Also, even something can be removed from the food to be more functional, like, for example, the reduced fat dairy products, or the probiotics added or enriched yogurts. In all situations, functional food not only serving basic nutrition, it goes without that, beyond that, to exert health benefits. And all of this started in the end of the last century, when in the 1980s, 1990s, when they found that the health, the nutrition paradigm have been changed from what does food do to us to what does food do for us. And they found that some foods actually contain specific bioactive materials like phytochemicals, pre or probiotics, or fibers themselves that optimize our quality of life, and at the same time they are having physiological important manifestations of enhancing our health, preventing or delaying the chronic diseases, even without having a certain definition agreed upon for the functional food. Some foods has started here in the maybe last 1990s with some health claims. And when this happened, when food started to be in the available on shelf for consumers with health claims, now the international authorities started to act. And they said that we have to have actually certain definition agreed upon in order for a food to have a medical or health claim. The first country to have this action was Japan. And Japan in 1991, the Japanese Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare was the first regulatory agency to recognize functional food as a unique food category, and they have their own seal that they call FOSHU, for food for specified health uses. And actually, they do that by using scientific evidence before allowing any health claims to be written on the nutritional label of a food. And the products to be approved as FOSHU only then can have the FOSHU seal, which is shown in the upper corner. For Japan, they said that food to be functional, it has to be effective. The effectiveness on human body has to be clearly proven. It has to have missing any safety issues, any safety concerns, and it has to be nutritionally appropriately ingredient containing. And it has to be, when it is consumed, there is guarantee that it's compatible with the product specification, even at time of consumption. And of course, quality control methods have to be established and fulfilled. After Japan, US and Europe followed, and the US FDA, Food and Drug Administration, actually they acted after finding that many of the food or several foods have been on the consumer shelves. Then they introduced the regulation, but in the FDA under the authority of the Federal Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act, even though they are not specifically defined by law. Then Europe, as I mentioned, I'm sorry, I have to go back. Europe followed after that. And the European Union, to start with, they have a very simple definition. They said, actually speaking, any food can be functional food because a food will perform a certain function. So they mentioned that functional food should be considered as a marketing term for a food to attract health claims. But any food actually, if appropriately marketed, can be, and if appropriately proven to be associated with health claims, can be functional food, but it should be itself or look like a traditional food and must be a part of our normal diet, so it's not taken as nutraceutical, for example. So to sum up, all the international authorities, starting with Japan, followed by US and Europe, has said that any food or food ingredients that may provide a health benefits beyond that conferred by the nutrients contained in this food is a functional food. And this is the simple agreed upon definition of a functional food now. But there is one problem that is still available, that is still right now present, which is the speed of action of the nutritional manufacturers as relative to the speed of laws and the speed of consumer acceptance. So all the time, the food industry is moving too fast for either scientists to prove or the international authorities to keep up and give the legislative in order to allow it to appear on consumptions or consumers' shelves. Another problem is that is a functional food drug or not drug? They said that functional food can act as drug because they contain ingredients that might alter the body function, that might cause allergy or drug interactions or other side effects. But at the same time, it's not a drug because the food label differs than the drug label. Actually, the functional food label does not have any instructions for dosage, frequency, or when to use or what not to use with or for the interactions. So in the first part of my talk, I just wanted to share with you the definitions of the functional food, and that is not a drug, but it acts sometimes as a drug, and sometimes it might be confusing. The functional food itself, its exerting function depends on the bioactive compounds they contain. So what are the bioactive compounds? Most of them are phytochemicals, and they are color-coded. We all hear about the red color of the lycopene in tomato and in other, like red raspberries, watermelon, strawberry. the yellow-green color of the lutein or the zeaxanthin, the red-purple of the anthocyanins, the orange, the beta-carotene, of course, and the flavonoids, orange-yellow in color, and the glucosinolates, which are green in color, and the white-green of the allyl sulfide in onion and garlic. This illustration just mentioned examples of the functional food that has inherent bioactive ingredients without added anything to them, and that have been associated and not cause-effect relation, have been only associated with certain metabolic pathways and hence health claims. This table only very quickly tell us that the phytochemical can be carotenoids, phenolics, organosulfides, alkaloids, or capsaicinoids. And they are present in food and drinks that we are consuming in every day. For example, the coffee. The coffee, actually, all of us have the impression that it only contains caffeine, but it is very rich in other components. Even they have coffee, coffee has protein and amino acids. Of course, the type of coffee that we are consuming, the type of the planted environment, and the type of processing, and the degree and extent of processing, even if it is roasted, what's the level of roasting, it will result into a total different product. In this picture, for example, they are very simply comparing between a green coffee bean composition when it is fresh versus when it is roasted, or the green coffee versus the roasted coffee. So we can see that the water is the main difference in the okay, the water is the main difference here. We have 2% only in the roasted, while in the water it's 12%. But other than that, the other components are belonging to all macronutrients that we know. It belongs to carbohydrates, whether soluble or insoluble, belongs to fat, belongs to proteins and peptides and amino acids, and also with the caffeine and with the flavonoids that are the bioactive compounds. The second components, which is the second, the second best thing in life for many people after coffee, is chocolate. And actually, cocoa and chocolate, they do have excess polyphenols. They are antioxidants, as we know, but this is in vitro. And I mentioned in the beginning, we need more mechanistic study. The antioxidant effect has been related to, associated to reduced risk of vascular diseases. Of course, they are talking about the more dark cocoa or the more dark chocolate. The tea. One thing that I didn't know before, I thought that the tea is either green tea or red or black tea. And then now they are having many types of teas. There is a white tea. White tea is made of very early leaves, very young leaves, and the total phenol components of the white leaf differ than of the green or the black or the oolong tea. So the white tea contains about 20 to 30% by weight polyphenols. Most of it, 60 to 80% of it, belongs to the family of the catechins. The green tea comes from the more mature leaf, so more mature than the white tea comes the green tea. Naturally contain lesser amount of catenin than the white tea, than the early tea leaves, and also the processing of the green tea will further differentiate one green tea from the other. So not all green tea the same, not all tea the same in the content of the polyphenols, and not green tea are all the same. For the black tea, it needs fermentation step. So there is fermentation, and here the extent of the fermentation and the microorganism used in the fermentation will make the whole difference between one black tea and the other. And then there is the oolong tea, and the oolong tea is a lighter flavor tea that has been exposed to a slight fermentation step, not as extensive as the black tea. So they are different in the catenin amount. So that's why we cannot compare results of different studies without knowing what is the exact characterization of every single tea, how it was processed, how it was planted in the beginning, and how it was processed, and how it is consumed. Although they are so different, but studies are published about the very beneficial health effects for the something like the green tea having beneficial effect in arthritis, in improving the bone density, in stress, and also it has some topical effect even in the skin protection from UV light. Actually speaking, the green tea, in this specific article, they didn't mention what type of green tea and how it was processed, and this was a pitfall in this article, of course. The families of berries are very rich in a pigment called anthocyanin, which is also antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, proven in animal studies and of course, in cell culture studies. They have some of the highest antioxidants in all fruits. The strawberry maybe is more than the other berries in having two more important bioactive materials, which are the ellagic acid and the quercetin, which associates consuming strawberry to protection from cancer in all stages of cancer. Again, I'm saying that it's a cell culture study or animal study. So it's association. They have anti-cancer activity, suppressing the initiation and the progression of cancer. The quercetin, which they found in strawberry, it's also found in two of the green leaves, in dill and kale. And there is a study that has looked at this bioactive material in both quercetin and in both dill and kale. And the study called the molecular mechanism of the cholesterol lowering effect of dill and kale, the influence of food matrix components. Actually, this study is very reputable because it highlights a very important point, is that we don't take functional food, we don't take the ingredients separated or purified or extracted. We take it in the whole of the food. So there is what we call, and what the authors have called, the food matrix components effects. So if you are testing something on a cell culture, you are testing a purified material. You are not testing the whole food components. And again, you are not testing the whole meal components, and you're not testing what actual nutritional lifestyle or dietary style the patient is, or the subject is having. And at the end of this nice research article, they said only by considering food as a whole, it is possible to understand the complex relationship between food, nutrition, and health. So such studies are more thoughtful, and they are highlighting the actual real life situation. Back to the other types of functional food, the cruciferous vegetables family. We all know about the cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and how important they are for our health. They are very rich in glucosinolates, the green phytochemicals we talked about, and their consumption have been associated with reduced risk of cancer, stomach, colon, and rectum, and also in the lung. We all hear about soybean, and we know that soybean, it's not only the soybeans, but also the products of the soybeans, like the tofu, for example. And the major bioactive components in it's protein, peptides. We know that it's very rich in protein, and several of us have been exposed to nutrition degrees, and we know that the soybean actually together with the quinoa are considered protein of high biological value. So they are considered as if they are meat or fish or poultry. They are very rich in protein, but again, the composition vary a lot depending on the location they've been planted from, depending on the processing and the mechanism of extracting of their derivatives. So although they are very rich in protein, and although this protein is of high biological value, we cannot talk in general that all the soy protein are equal. They are not equal. But some studies, like this study here, have looked specifically at the soy proteins and have linked it to many bioactive, the products of which the bioactive compounds, And they talk about the enzymatic processing when we consume it, when we consume the soy protein. It depends also on our gut microbiota, because our gut microbiota will act on them and will ferment them. And this is how one person will differ from the other in their response to the same food, which is the soy protein. The soybeans, they don't only contain the soy proteins, but they have the isoflavones and the saponins, which are associated with hormonal antioxidant effects. Tomato, very rich in lycopene. And again, they found that different species of tomato, they are very different from each other. So tomato are not created the same. So they have lycopenes, but which type of lycopenes? And when we ingest them, and when our body is dealing with them by our gut microbiota and producing some extracts, some derivatives, how it will affect us, it's very different. So that's why they said that actually the positive effect of lycopenes can be applied to something like nutrition, personalized nutrition. I will not go further because my time is out, but actually I have only a few slides left. The message that I want to convey here is that there are many information out there. Most of them are not on evidence-based science, so that's why it's very rich area for young scientists to start to dig in, starting with models for diseases and then acting on a mechanistic base. So what is the mechanism of every single association we have in the literature now? And by that, I thank you for your patience, and I'm ready for any question.
Thank you. طبعا أنا بشكر اسم الفسيولوجي بطب عين شمس لهذه الدعوة الكريمة. واسمحوا لي أقدم بنتي العزيزة الدكتورة نهى أسامة، دوما متميزة. هي من اسم الفسيولوجي بطب حلوان. هي متميزة.
صباح الخير. في البداية أنا اللي أحب أشكر اسم فسيولوجي عين شمس بيتي الأولاني، ويعني أنا سعيدة إن أنا وفخورة إني خريجة طب عين شمس طبعًا. فأنا طبعًا سعيدة جدًا إن أنا واقفة هنا النهارده كمان مع شير بيرسونز دكتور منى، دكتور سناء، دكتور مها، طبعًا دكتور ياسر عاشور ماي جاد فاذر، واللي إحنا كلنا بنتعلم منه وبنسعى دايمًا إن إحنا نتواصل معاه دكتور عبد العزيز. فأنا I'm the one who is grateful and delighted بصراحة بوقفتي هنا النهارده. النهارده أنا كان حظي حلو kind of إن أنا بتكلم عن the mix of nutrition and physiology. And recently, everyone around is planning a diet. Everyone around, even the children and the old age, are having a certain diet, certain menu. I cannot eat outside because I'm having restrictions in my diet. So let's pass by how is physiology helping nutrition, and how is nutrition based on physiology and biochemistry. Okay. Today we are speaking about some definitions, which is thankful Dr. Reem passed by, and then the function of the food. Almost physiology is looking at the function. So we are checking the function, nutrition as assessment of every individual, and signs of a good nutrition, and finally the relation between nutrition and other science, with some limitation in our nutrition. The main aim is to link nutrition with physiology and basically biochemistry. The nutrition science is depending on many items. Of course, physiology and biochemistry are definitely side by side, and then microbiology and different food sciences. To reach for the nutrition science definition, it is the handling of food as a function. We eat to have the function of different food items. And we are having a nutritional genomics, which is how some food can change in our genes. Always we are hearing, don't let children eat much food preservatives. It can cause cancer later on. So how, yes, some of what we eat can play a role in changing the genes. The three overlaps are between the diet control, yes, we can restrict our sugar for those who are diabetics. And we can restrict some causes that may lead to a heart disease, like a high cholesterol diet. And finally, toxicology in food is much related as botulism. Classification of food can be done as an origin, animal origin and vegetable origin, or as chemical composition, proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. But from the physiological point of view, let's analyze food or classify food in a different way. We're having a body-building food like meat, milk, poultry, fish, eggs, and we are having high energy food. We are preferable at the morning like cereals, and we are having the protective food as vitamins, which is present in vegetables and fruits. Speaking about nutrition and food, we cannot pass by how is food controlled, how we are eating. When we are fasting, what's the hormones playing a major role? When we are satisfied and fully diet, what's the hormones playing the major role? And then we are having this major and wonderful hypothalamus. And hypothalamus has centers for food regulation between satiety and appetite. The ventral nucleus in the hypothalamus plays a major role in as a satiety center, and the lateral one plays a major role as which stimulates appetite. In between the arcuate nucleus, which plays a major role handling the anorexogenic and orexogenic hormones. Anorexogenic hormones are the hormones or neurons producing a stimulation to pro-opiomelanocortin, cocaine, and amphetamine-related transcript, which this suppress hunger. And on the other side, orexogenic hormones, which are playing neurons stimulating the neuropeptide Y, which stimulates hunger. Hormones related to hunger or which stimulate hunger, one of which is the ghrelin. The ghrelin hormone stimulates hunger. It's this hormone that is highly increased before meals that stimulate the sense of I want to eat, I want much food, I want to eat much high-fat diet food. And of course, cortisol. Cortisol is much related to the emotional eating, what we usually say about emotional eating. And secondly, the hormones affecting anorexia or promoting satiety. First of all is the leptin. Leptin rises in our blood after each meal, especially high-fat diet meal. It rises causing satiety feeling, and of course insulin. Some other hormones like cholecystokinin, alpha-melanocyte hormone, glucagon-like 1 peptide. Ghrelin and leptin playing all the time the seesaw game. Ghrelin increases before the eating and decreases after eating. In comparison, leptin is low before eating and increases after eating. That's why we have to plan our diet for each one. There's no like a diet plan for all of us or the whole family will go through the same diet. Each one has to tailor his own diet plan based on the history, his historical diseases, whatever he has as a family history, and then his height, body weight, and we have to relate. Biochemical data, if his hemoglobin A1C like a pre-diabetic person, and clinical assessment if he's a hypertensive person, and finally, the dietary assessment, what he is missing in his diet causing a vitamin deficiency, for example. First of all, tailoring a diet plan, we have to choose number of different food. Not the same food day after day. We can relate for many reasons. One, not to be upset and feel bored out of the food. Secondly, nutrition is like a ladder. We have to pass by each step so as to each item can be absorbed. So utilizing different types of food help us to absorb different types of food. And then we are those doctors who can say, especially physiological and biochemical doctors can say, this is one who is having a healthy diet. There's so simple signs of having a healthy nutrition, like shiny hair, shiny eyes, this person has an alert expression, well-developed structure, not underweight, not extra overweight, and of course, relation of this body mass index, relation body weight to height, and the person have a regular sleep. Recently, many persons are having this, sleep is not regular. I sleep too much or I sleep too little. And it was believed recently that yes, your diet helps you to sleep well. That diet helps you to have a good, soft sleep over the night. And it's highly, highly related to diet. Let's do some exercises. We won't do exercise, but let me do some exercises. First of all, how we tailor the diet. Insulin resistant, a patient came with insulin resistance and dyslipidemia and hypertension. How I can tailor the diet for him? Definitely, first of all, I will say minimize the sugar in your diet or any glucose. But secondly, fibers. Fibers are high rich diet that had to be taken in hypertensive and diabetic persons. Secondly, an athletic person who is having much exercises, he needs much ATP. So I provide him with high carbohydrate diet before each exercise, plus high protein diet after the exercise. Finally, for an example, an aging and sarcopenic patient who is having a little of muscle weight loss, I'll provide some proteins extra in diet plus vitamin D supplementation in case he is need. Finally, we are having the trend, as everything in the social media is trendy nowadays. We are having our trend as what's so-called the probiotics. The probiotics are something available in the breast milk, available in our normal bacterial flora, are some of our food having those probiotics, but recently are started to be like a therapy. It's advised to have a probiotic for each age group is different. Like we are in the children 0 to 2 years old, probiotics are very useful for this repeated diarrhea with happening in children, and later on 2 to 18 years old, diarrhea will be shortened. Adults, we are focusing on the mental and metabolic health. Irritable bowel syndrome, stress-related diseases, probiotics help way more better to decrease these manifestations. Finally, elderly, probiotics reduce respiratory infections and constipation relief. Usually elderly above 60 years old are much more complaining of constipation most of the time. So probiotics help a great deal to do this. It's very, very well known that probiotics are not the same for all ages. Not one size fits all solution. And finally, I have simple take-home messages about how to use food in our life. We have to enjoy a variety of food. Cereals, breads, other grain products, vegetables, and fruits are very important. Some of those who are dieting plan, they are saying, I stopped eating no more bread in my life. This is not correct. Bread is really very important in our life. Of course, it's better to have a low-fat diet all the time and lean meats. Finally, salt and sugar and caffeine has to be a little bit limited, not extra in our food. And by this, we are achieving a healthful body by enjoying regular physical activity with our nutrition. I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. Hope it was fine and short. Thank you so much. And I'm available for any question. Thank you all.
أولا طبعا أحب أشكر كل زملاء وأساتذتنا الأعزاء في قسم الكيمياء الحيوية وقسم الفسيولوجيا الطبية في كلية طب عين شمس على الدعوة الجميلة وإن أنا أكون موجود مع حضراتكم النهاردة إن شاء الله. Now, Dr. Marwa Tariq, she will present her talk, Fasting as a Metabolic Reset. Okay.
صباح الخير على حضراتكم جميعا. Thank you for this opportunity to share my talk in this conference. So my talk is entitled Fasting as a Metabolic Reset. The outline of this talk, we will go through rapid understanding of therapeutic fasting, just the term of using fasting as a therapeutic tool, benefits of fasting generally, the term metabolic switch, and fasting in relation to different cellular processes like cellular repair, inflammation, insulin sensitivity, heart and gut health, aging, cancer, and mental health. So first, fasting is now gaining popularity as a method for improving health and resetting metabolism. Actually, as the term implies, it involves periods of abstinence from food, and it leads to various metabolic changes in the body. It's now a center point and is considered as a non-pharmacological strategy to improve health and increase longevity in various scientific interventions. So in this conference, as we explore various aspects of nutrients and metabolism, from hormonal regulation to nutrient processing and disease, this presentation just focuses on another layer, terming fasting is not just as a lifestyle trend, it's actually a deeply embedded metabolic program designed to recalibrate and restore homeostasis. So just to generally speaking, I'm highlighting the general benefits of fasting. Generally speaking, benefits improve cardiometabolic risk factors, including insulin resistance, dyslipidemia, and inflammation. It decreases overall fat mass and visceral fat mass, which leads to definitely weight loss. Also, it's associated with enhanced brain function, longevity, associated with increased lifespan, and it improves various inflammatory conditions and healing processes in diseases like osteoarthritis, thrombophlebitis, and refractory dermal ulcers. So since we mentioned the benefits or the general benefits of fasting, the term metabolic switch has to be highlighted. What is the metabolic switch? The metabolic switch is one of the key mechanisms responsible for we just mentioned the beneficial effects. Term flipping the metabolic switch. What is the metabolic switch? Actually, it's the body's preferential shift from utilization of glucose to fatty acids and fatty acid derived ketones. So, just to summarize, this switch turns utilization of fatty acids instead of glucose. The body shifts from lipid synthesis and fat storage to mobilization of fat in the form of free fatty acids and fatty acid derived ketones. This switch actually it occurs typically after depletion of glycogen stores in the liver and accelerated adipocyte or adipose tissue lipolysis, which produces increased fatty acid ingresses. It takes around 12 to 36 hours for this metabolic switch to occur, and it depends on the glycogen content in the liver and the degree of activity or exercise exerted by the person. Thus, when the metabolic switch is flipped, the primary energy source becomes fatty acid rather than glucose. This mainly preserves muscle mass. So this is generally the mechanisms or the possible mechanisms that the fasting can exert to finally lead to health improvement. So it starts by activation of three main pathways: AMP dependent or AMP activated kinase, FOXO, which is fork head box class O, and autophagy, and down regulation of the mTOR signaling pathway. The integration of the effect of these pathways leads to all these beneficial effects, which finally leads to health improvement, including body weight reduction, increase in fatty acid oxidation. The term metabolic switch, or sometimes referred to as metabolic flexibility, and we have to remember this term because metabolic flexibility is a feature of normal healthy cells. Insulin sensitivity, enhancement of insulin sensitivity, decrease in cardiovascular risk, decrease in inflammation, and increase in redox balance. So let's describe the title of this talk, Fasting as a Metabolic Reset. Fasting actually hits the reset button and causes reset of, for example, these processes. Of course, these are not the only pathways that are reset by fasting. These are examples of how fasting can have a role in control of these pathways. خلينا نهايلايت بس ان الايفكتس اللي احنا هنقولها بتاعت الفاستنج mainly على الانترميتنت فاستنج والكالوريك ريستريكشن ورمضان فاستنج. ما قلناش كل التايبس اوف فاستنج بس mainly كان الستاديز على الانترميتنت فاستنج. Starting by fasting and cellular repair, we are going to describe cellular repair regarding autophagy, oxidative damage, DNA repair, and stem cell regeneration. Starting by autophagy, of course, autophagy means self-eating, and it's a vital self-degradative cleanup process. Serves major functions, including removal of misfolded or aggregated proteins, recycling of damaged cell components, protection against genome instability, prevention of necrosis, and promotion of cellular senescence.
الفانكشنز دي كلها هتخلي طبعا الاوتوفاجي to play a substantial role in prevention of a wide variety of diseases. في studies كتيره معموله على ازاي ان انا مجرد ما اعمل induction للاوتوفاجي ممكن protect against chronic diseases زي cardiomyopathy, diabetes, liver disease, cancer and more. Mainly fasting works by its action on two pathways, the mTOR pathway and AMP activated protein kinase. Fasting causes decrease in signaling of mTOR pathway by decreasing insulin and insulin-like growth factor. This causes inhibition of mTOR pathway, while on the other hand, the increase in AMP-ATP ratio causes stimulation of AMP-activated protein kinase, and integration of these two signaling pathways leads to autophagy, which finally causes improved metabolic processes, organelle quality control, and maintenance of proteostasis. Another way for cellular repair is through prevention of oxidative damage. So the relation of fasting to oxidative damage, fasting has been shown to be ameliorative regarding oxidative damage to all components of the cell, including DNA, protein, and lipids, through decrease in the production of reactive oxygen species and also increase in the protective mechanisms, including antioxidants. Also, fasting has been shown to promote DNA repair mechanisms. One of the mechanisms for promoting DNA is that fasting enhances the production of one of the key proteins involved in DNA repair, which is called CEP164 protein. It's important in repair of DNA damage by ultraviolet and ionizing radiation. Also, fasting has been shown to prevent age-related normal decline in the base excision and nucleotide excision repairs pathway, which are needed for repair of ROS-induced damage to individual bases and ultraviolet-induced DNA adducts. Also, long-term fasting prevents age-related decline in the main double-stranded break repair pathway, which is non-homologous and joint. Regarding stem cell regeneration, actually fasting has been shown to boost the regenerative capacity of stem cells by enabling them to utilize lipids as energy sources during nutrient scarcity. And this regenerative capacity has been more studied regarding intestinal stem cells. And upon refeeding, reactivation of the mTOR pathway causes promotion of protein synthesis and tissue repair. Now we are going to talk about the relation between fasting and inflammation. Actually, fasting has been shown to reverse what is called metaflammation. Metaflammation is a syndrome of chronic metabolic inflammatory condition that occurs with high caloric diet. These are the parameters that occur or the features of this metaflammation, with increase in the body mass, fatty mass, and energy intake, decrease in energy expenditure, while features of glucose intolerance and insulin resistance occur. Also, there is increase in inflammatory cytokines, decrease in uncoupling protein-induced adipose tissue browning, and decrease in beneficial gut microbiota, and decrease in short-chain fatty acid production. This is actually reversed with fasting. Fasting works by suppressing the metabolic inflammation characterized by drop of serum pro-inflammatory cytokines and mainly interleukins, which are related to regulation of blood glucose and insulin sensitivity. And we have to remember that fasting has been shown to be related to regulation of arachidonic acid level by increasing arachidonic acid and inhibiting inflammation. As for insulin sensitivity, the majority of available research demonstrates that fasting is effective at decreasing fasting blood glucose, decreasing fasting insulin, and reducing insulin resistance, and also regulation of leptin and adiponectin levels by decreasing leptin and increasing adiponectin levels. It causes also increase in AMP-activated kinases, and they are known, or this pathway is known to have a role in improvement of insulin sensitivity and glucose homeostasis. Some studies actually دي حاجه يعني beneficial وعملوا عليها الستاديز للبيشنتس كمان، لقوا ان اما حطوا لهم intermittent fasting في البروتوكول بتاعهم بتاع الدايتري ريجيمن، يعني ان هم were able to reverse their need for insulin therapy. ورجعوا تاني يمشوا على oral hypoglycemics during therapeutic intermittent fasting protocols. What about heart health, fasting and heart health? Actually, fasting can promote cardiovascular stability by two major mechanisms. First of all, the one we already mentioned, it decreases ROS production. So the oxidative stress that is responsible for the ischemic injury of the heart in myocytes is avoided with fasting. It's really related, it's totally related to atherosclerosis and development of atherosclerosis. The second mechanism is increased cellular stress resistance, where fasting initiates the release of protein chaperones in response to stress, and it helps in cellular repair. كمان مش قصة بقى ال decrease in ROS production بس وال increase in cell stress response، كمان لقوا إن الفاستنج related لل better cardiometabolic stability and cardiometabolic risk factor decrease. لقوا في significant lowering of LDL cholesterol, elevation of HDL cholesterol, decrease in the level of inflammatory cytokines ودي قلناها قبل كده، بس هنا related ل decrease in the risk of development of atherosclerosis لأنه totally related للinflammation. كمان by reduction of the progression of atherosclerosis, fasting plays a major role in reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease and stroke. في studies كمان معمولة على الريليشن بتاعة الفاستنج مع البلاد pressure regulation. Fasting has been shown to decrease resting blood pressure, both systolic and diastolic, and resting heart rate. What about the gut health? Actually, we know that relying on overfat state or Western diet causes imbalance in the microbiota with increase in the pathogenic bacteria, increase in undesirable metabolites, increasing gut permeability and inflammation. This is all related to increased caloric intake. In general, most studies have shown favorable results following adherence from the fasting diet on the intestinal microbiome, where there was an increase in bacterial diversity, of course promoting healthy balance of gut microbiota with the abundance of the beneficial bacteria that have been linked with lower risk of cancer and inflammatory bowel disease. Also, fasting has been shown to decrease inflammation and increase in the production of metabolites like short-chain fatty acids, improving the function of gut barrier and therefore immunity. And fasting allows the gut to rest, which improves digestion. What about fasting and aging? Is fasting related to aging? According to studies, fasting reduces signs of aging by 2.5 years. هو مش رقم كبير بس مع prolonged commitment لhealthy or healthy aging, aim. So numerous studies indicate that intermittent fasting may enhance the production of collagen, may promote cellular health and longevity, and potential to lower the risk of age-related conditions and provide healthy aging. What about cancer? Actually, there is an anti-cancer perspective regarding fasting where cancer cells are glucose-loving as they have more insulin transmembrane receptor sites to increase the uptake of glucose. However, normal body cells, we've just mentioned, they are flexible or metabolically flexible. Unlike cancer cells, there is no metabolic flexibility in cancer cells, so with fasting, cancer cells are going to die. And actually, there is integration of all the previously mentioned pathways with protection against cancer, decreasing inflammation, decreasing DNA damage, decreasing insulin and oxidative stress, and on the other hand, increasing autophagy, increasing insulin sensitivity, and increasing immune response. Finally, fasting and mental health. Is fasting related to better mental health? Actually, there are various mechanisms that are studied that fasting can impact brain health. It starts by improvement of neuronal mitochondrial health, reduces oxidative stress and inflammation, balances neurotransmitters, mainly glutamate and GABA ratio, improves cognition and mood, enhances stress resilience, increases brain connectivity, increases blood flow, and turns up neuronal healing, as we already mentioned, that fasting promotes autophagy and mitophagy. In conclusion, fasting is actually not starvation. It's a state of repair, realignment, and resourcefulness. It triggers a shift in fuel utilization, promoting ketogenesis, autophagy, and metabolic flexibility. It acts as a natural modulator of insulin, fuel sources, and stress response pathways, like the two examples that we mentioned, mTOR and AMPK. And it offers a systemic reset, cellular cleanup, hormonal balance, and improved metabolic markers. We are going to just highlight that to reach an honest full picture, we need to compare different types of fasting and highlight the risk factors and complications of prolonged or extreme measures of fasting. Thank you so much.
السلام عليكم. السلام عليكم. I would like طبعا to thank كل الحضور and to thank the talkers for their valuable and fruitful talks. Now it's time for discussion. اتفضل حضرتك يا دكتور.
Nothing is always good. There is bad and good. You can make fasting and you have ketogenesis and ketoacidosis. You can have fasting and you can, if you have a disease, you can fall into different category. So you have to highlight the danger of fasting or the circumstances or limitation and
اللي ما ينفعش فيها
that
نستعمل.
may be
ايوه، ما انا قلت
associated.
عشان الهونست بيكتشر لازم تبقى followed by البارت ده.
Yes. في سؤال تاني للدكتور ريم. البيبر الارتكل اللي هو you have to study the whole in order to have the whole picture. Actually, you cannot study the whole except if you study the ingredient and in pure picture, then you study. So you have to study both.
I totally agree. I totally agree. You have to study both, of course. And one of the most difficult type of study is the nutritional study because too many confounding things are going on. So yeah, you have to study the whole meal and then the dietary style and then the lifestyle and then the stress situation and the sleep pattern. Yes, it's not that easy at all to have a documented, well evidence-based results from a nutritional study. Thank you for the comment.
السلام عليكم. سؤال بس للدكتورة مروة. هو حضرتك كنت بتقولي الفاستنج بكل البنفيتس بتاعته دي رائعة، بس نقطة الكالوريك ريستريكشن، يعني أنا لازم وأنا بعمل intermittent fasting يبقى فيه كالوريك ريستريكشن ولا لأ؟ ده أول سؤال. طب let's say مثلا أنا همشي على 1000 كيلو كالوري دايت، هل نوعية الأكل بتفرق؟ يعني let's say مثلا أخدت هاي كالوري دايت، يعني هاي كالوري بس يعني فضلت في نفس الكالوريك ريستريكشن اللي أنا عايزاه، هل هتفرق في البنفيتس بتاعت الفاستنج مثلا ولا لا؟ ونقطه الكيتوجينيسيس اللي كان دكتور عمرو بيتكلم عليها دي حاجه. دكتوره ريم سلام، كنت عايزه اسال برضو هل فكره الهول، لان انا ممكن الانجريدينتس كلها يعني نفسها تاثر على الايفكتس، يعني مثلا لو انا عندي كذا انجريدينت ممكن يحسنوا بعض او يقللوا البنفيتس بتاعت بعض، عشان كده حضرتك بتقولي يعني ان احنا بناخد الهول بتاع الحاجه، صح؟ تمام، شكرا يا دكتور. دكتوره عمر.
هو التايب اوف الفاستنج المتبع هيختلف على الاوتكم ديفينتلي. اوكي، الستاديز كتير جدا different types of fasting جوه الانترميتنت فاستنج نفسه ستيل جواه different types. فعشان هنا مجال بس عرض جاست الميتابوليك ايفكتس بتاعه الفاستنج، مش comparison للديفرنت تايبس والايفكتس بتاعتهم. تاني حاجه البيكتشر كلها عايزه لوحدها توك عن السايد ايفكتس بتاعه الفاستنج مع prolonged ومع الديفرنت regimens. الايه؟
Thank you very much for all the speakers for this topic. I have one little question for Dr. Reem. In spite of that, she said don't ask. Okay, in terms of definition, is there a difference between functional foods and the nutraceuticals?
Yeah, that's an easy question. Thank you, Dr. Gamal. So nutraceuticals can be put in pills or in syrup or capsules, but the functional food, it should be conventional food that is eaten on a regular manner with just like any food, whether it is inherently functional or processing added functional.
Okay, what about bee honey and Nigella sativa?
صح حبيبة قلب حضرتك.
You are underestimating our work.
طبعا. خدها بقى حضرتك.
And I think bee honey and Nigella sativa are ones of the important, we call it nutraceuticals, and those functional foods.
Right.
And have been proven to be have antioxidant, anti-inflammatory,
Yes.
and we showed that in our work as a prophylactic in experimental animals and as a therapeutics in culture cells, HEB2 cells, hepatocellular carcinoma cells, and approved this anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and the anti-apoptotic effect. We studied the different mechanisms in this. There is one missing important aspect in this field, which is right now very dominating, which is nutrition genetics and nutrition genomics, and the relationship between this, and this is a very good area of research that is going on right now. Can you tell us the difference for us, the people, to know what's the difference between genetics, nutrition genetics, and nutrition genomics, and how these are affected in this cycle?
يعني if our food, if I take a food and حضرتك you took the same food, it will affect us differently based on our genomic profiles. This is one thing. But if I'm taking a food and it will affect my genetic expression, my gene expression level, this is the nutrigenetics versus nutrigenomics. So the response of my food, my body to the food, it's one definition, and the other one is how the food will affect the gene expression in my body.
You mean that food intake is dependent on our genetics?
Exactly. This is this is one thing. It depends
and
on
the food taken will affect our genomics.
Gene expression level. Exactly.
Okay. Exactly. And this is mainly through epigenetic effect that most of the diet are going through to affect the genome through its epigenetic effect rather than directly.
Correct.
Okay, I have one comment on the for Dr. Noha regarding that what is missing. You already talking about the assessment, but you are not covering it completely. Okay. Okay. And you just mentioned genomics and you skipped it. Okay, thank you. For Dr. Marwa, definition of fasting is very important. Because there is a difference between the fasting and the refeed cycle. And the refeed cycle is very important after fasting. Because if you fast for a certain time and then you are refed a high carbohydrate diet, then all what you said will not happen. Okay? So fasting also is different between, is it intermittent fasting? Is it religious fasting? Because religious fasting is different in Islam compared to Christianity. So which one you were talking about?
هو يا دكتور انا قلت في اول التوك ان معظم الستاديز اللي انا جايبه عليها الكلام على intermittent fasting وعلى caloric restriction ورمضان fasting. بس ما فيش مجال للcomparison بين ال different types لان جوه intermittent fasting مش كلهم مستعملين نفس الريجيم.
And even if Ramadan fasting will differ between summer and winter. And in summer and in winter we fast for 12 hours, and in winter it may go up to 16 hours. So this changes. Does it have any remarkable differences in all the effects you've mentioned, or this is not tackled in research?
It's tackled in research but highlighted على specific aspect. يعني مثلا comparison of different types of or different regimens of intermittent fasting أو duration بتاعة fasting على inflammatory response or inflammatory markers, for example.
Okay. Regarding the direct effect of the fasting, is it mainly metabolic that affects the other changes?
Yes, mainly
Inflammation. So it is mainly metabolic.
Yes.
So you mean that if we can study metabolomics in fasting and decide which one metabolite exactly or several
Affects the
metabolites that can affect, then may give us an information more about this.
Yes,
Okay.
totally right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, even the hormone will result in changes in metabolites.
ايوه ممكن عندي سؤال صغير very short question for Dr. Reem about the definition of functional food. The authorities that put this definition did they consider any non-functional natural food? Yeah, I think that any natural food should be functional.
And in order to be functional food, to take this definition, it has to be associated some way or another to a health claim, medically enhancing claim. So, for example, it improve your cardiovascular system. This is written on a cereal box of kids. The vitamin D enhanced milk, for example. The probiotics, not all yogurts considered containing probiotics, because although all yogurt by definition they were made by using yeast, they have some microorganism, but in order to be yogurt that is a functional food, it has to have a rigorous definition that the probiotic in them has to withstand the stomach conditions and has to reach the intestine and has to colonize in the intestine. And so that is an example. So any food has a function, but if this function is to be related to a health claim, it should pass through the rigorous regulation of functional food definition.
Yeah, I think that the difference should be clarified, and the list you mentioned is denying a lot of foods such those mentioned in السنة النبوية والقرآن الكريم، وفاكهة ونخل ورمان والتين والزيتون والطب النبوي. الطب النبوي يعني في أقسام في السعودية limited للطب النبوي واستخدام، وكل الريسيرشز بتتعمل على كل ال ingredients اللي موجودة في الناتشورال فودز وهم لا حصر لهم. يعني كان عندي ملف 18 بحث عن أشياء كلها related للactive ingredients والbeneficial ingredients which are mentioned in القرآن والسنة. وإن addition كمان دايما بيناقشوا الimportance of ماء زمزم. It should be added to the definition or should be mentioned in a subcategory about the benefits versus the claims against any of these. شكرا.
Totally agree. Thank you very much.
بعد اذن حضرتك معلش، انا دكتور عزة مجاهد، استاذ فسيولوجي جامعه الزقازيق. بعد اذن حضرتك دكتور ريم، حيث ان التايب اوف فود انتاك حضرتك خليكي مرتاحه، اقعدي مرتاحه. التايب اوف فود له علاقه او بالجينوتايب بتاع الانديفيدوال. هل ممكن يتدخل نوع الفود في تحديد نوع الامبريو during pregnancy لو الام اخذت انواع معينه من الاكل، يعني في ترند كده بيقول نقدر نحدد نوع الجنين عن طريق انواع معينه من الاكل تقدر الام تاكلها فهل في قراءات حضرتك حاجه لها علاقه ما بين نوع الجنين ونوع الاكل؟
Okay, so for me, this is a very interesting question that I've never heard an article discussing it, but my colleague and my أستاذة دكتورة سمر, she has a comment.
أيوة السلام عليكم. هو يعني it's very يعني well known من فترة كبيرة يعني إن في some food بتغير البي اتش بتاعت الفاجينا، فبتبروموت مثلا اللي هم السبيرمز اللي هي الميل سبيرمز عن الفيميل سبيرمز أو العكس. يعني مثلا alkalization of the vagina بيبروموت الفيميل سبيرمز and the other يعني vice versa. ففي يعني ده اللي انا اعرفه في النقطه دي.
انا سمعت برضه ترند زي كده، فكان على قراءات حضرتها فممكن يكون عندها علم اكبر. طيب تمام، ثانك يو فيري ماتش. بيفور انا بقول بيفور انت يعني مع البيريود يعني.
طيب دكتوره مروه طارق، طبعا الف شكر، التوك فيري انترستنج، وطبعا ماشي معايا خالص. انا واحده اكزامبل اهو الانترميتنت فاستنج، على طول ماشي على انترميتنت فاستنج. بس عايزه اقول يعني اؤكد على الكلام اللي قاله عمرو ان فعلا ما هياش الحياه وردي قوي مع الانترميتنت فاستنج. انا ضغطي عالي والال دي ال عالي وعندي اوستيو ارثرايتس مع اني على طول على انترميتنت فاستنج. تمام؟ والايدجنج اديك شايف. فهي ما هياش يعني قصدي ايه وردي، لكن هو فعلا له فاليوز في الايتوفاجي، وان هو بيعمل تجديد للخلايا اند سو اون. طيب سؤالي بس يا مروه بعد اذنك، في نقطه برضو حابه اوضحها، ان هو بس في الفاستنج مش ميتابوليك تشينج بس، لا في جينيتيك تشينج وفي الجين اكسبريشن بيبقى افكتد، وخصوصا في الليفر في الفاستنج.
هما يا دكتور
بيسايد الهرمونال ايبيجينيتيك.
يعني هو البدايه ميتابوليك وكلها بعد كده الباث ويز اللي افكتد دول افكتد على الجين اكسبريشن ليفل للامتور والاي ام بي اكتيفيتد بروتين كاينيز
تمام، ديبندنت على الفاستنج نفسه.
تمام.
طيب سؤال بقى معلش تاني، انت قلتي ان في بروتين بيزيد له علاقه بالدي ان اي ريبير اللي هو السي اي بي 164.
المفروض ادور عليه.
لا انا مش عايزه ايه البروتين، كنت عايزه اعرف ايه الميكانيزم، يعني حصل فاستنج ايه اللي علاه
لا ماشي
كبروتين،
يعني ما دورش على الميكانيزم.
وحاجه تانية برضو كنت حابه اعرفها على البيز اكسجين ريبير، مش عارفه التخصص بتاعي ريبير فقلتي برضو ان هو
هو بس بيقلل الديكلاين اللي بيحصل مع الايدج طبيعي، هو بس بيقلله لكن مش بيستيميوليت الريبير سيستم ده.
انا لا اقصد الميكانيزم برضو مش معروفه ايه العلاقه بينه، مجرد بس كورليشن.
اوكي
يعني مجرد اوبزرفيشن لكن ما فيش ميكانيزم.
لا بس انا ممكن ادور اذا كان هو في further research على ميكانيزم ليفل ولا لا، لكن ده كان مكتوب بس اسوسيشن.
تمام. طب دكتوره ريم بقى، حبيبتي دكتوره ريم، طبعا يعني عايزه اقول لك امبريسد بالمحاضره وطلعت بشويه ترمينولوجي جمال جدا، فوشو وماتريكس وحاجات زي الفل. طيب هو اللي انا فهمته من حضرتك ان او according لليوروبيان definition ان any food functional، تمام كده؟ has a function. تمام. وحضرتك عرضتي سبيكترم جميل جدا من كل الحاجات اللي احنا بنحبها، الشوكليت والكافيين والتي زي الفل. تمام. كنت حابه اعرف اديني اكزامبل بقى النون فانكشنال فود، يعني انا لقيت كل حاجه فانكشنال. معلش خلاص سوري. يعني يبقى اذا يعني نتفق في النهايه ان كل الفودز فانكشنال according لليوروبيان ديفينيشن، ولكن الليفل مختلف زي ما قالت سام.
وبرضه نقول ان يعني اذا كان نقدر نقول عليه functional food so it has to be related او associated، حتى associated بس to a health claim او to a health benefit علشان يبقى اسمه فعلا functional food. يعني زي الجدول الكبير دوت كل حاجه حضرتك ايه ده انتي ميكانيزم، انتي اوكسيدنت، انتي انفلاماتوري، بس بس associated with ايه مثلا protection from heart coronary heart disease، protection from cancer، protection from osteoporosis, bone. So it has obesity فعلا.
بس حضرتك ده
It
كلام
has-
برضو، يعني
but
حضرتك قلتي مفيش
association.
evidence ومفيش
مفيش
mechanism
evidence for
studied.
most of them yeah. يعني كأن كل فود له function بيؤدي function فعلا، فهم
أكيد.
ابتدوا كده قالوا any food can be considered functional food if it is associated with a health benefit. لان زي ما قلت لحضرتك في الاول خالص ان هم اللي خلى الانترناشونال اوثوريتيز ديت تحط الليجيسليشن وستامبس وديفينيشنز وحاجات زي كده، ان هم لقوا في حاجات ظهرت على الاسواق فعلا وفيها medical claim او health claim that is not supported at all. فدلوقتي اصبح ان اي health claim موجود الاف دي اي بتاعت الكانتري دي مثلا زي بالنسبه لنا الايجيبشن، انا ما اعرفش بصراحه على مستوى بلدنا ايه ولازم اسال في الموضوع ده، بس لازم يكون الاف دي اي ابروفد مثلا بالنسبه لليو اس. الاي يو حطوا certain correction action مخصوص وعلشان يبقى مكتوب عليه اي health claim other than that they are not allowed to. هم ده اللي خلاهم يتحركوا، ان لقوا ان في health claim اتحط، فبالتالي قالوا لا الفانكشنال فود لازم يبقى له هيلث كليم، لازم طبعا يبقى كونفنشنال، يبقى اكل عادي مش يتاخد بالبيلز، لازم يتاخد في الريجولار دايت، لازم يبقى في كواليتي كنترول، لازم لما يوصل للمستهلك يبقى بنفس الكرايتيريا بتاعت لما تصنع لغايه طول
لحد
الاكسبيريشن
ما وصل لايديه،
ولازم يكون associated with a certain health claim عشان يبقى اسمه functional food.
تمام. اتفضل.
لا السبلمنتس حاجه تانية يا دكتور. لا to the food يا دكتور. السبلمنت حضرتك ناخد مثلا ايه كبسوله اوميجا 3 اوميجا 6 this is a supplement. لكن when I'm eating eggs the hens of which have been fed omega 3 rich diet الاج هيبقى rich in omega 3 this is functional food. معنى ده omega 3 وده omega 3. supplements are extracted purified in a form of pills. عارف دواء يعني مش دواء يعني supplements مكملات غذائيه منفصله. لكن الفانكشنال فود الانريتشد والانهانسد في يعني ديفينيشن بسيط بينهم. يعني لو حضرتك حاطط حاجه عشان هي باظت من البروسيسنج ديت يو ار انريتشنج ات. لو حضرتك حاطط حاجه عشان هي مش موجوده زي الفيتامين دي اللي بيحطوه في الميلك يو ار فورتيفاينج ات. ف this is functional food because you are not taking vitamin D as a pill. You drink it with the milk. لا it's not a drug. It's not.
كان الفودز كلها فانكشنال فكان لازم يبقى فيه هنت على الهارمفول فودز
نون فانكشنال
واللي هي they serve certain function yes but لكن ممكن certain foods may be harmful to the human body than the other. دي حاجة. الحاجة الثانية الفودز of high biological value foods of low biological value. لكن تقسيمة الفودز على انها functional و non functional مش متقسمة، يعني اللي هي ممكن تدي صورة واضحة. احنا من زمان بنقسمها هل هي low biological value high biological value harmful foods beneficial foods وكده يعني.
يعني بصي يا دكتور ريم يعني ادينا اكزامبل لنون فانكشنال فود.
يعني I understood the concern now. لا هو يعني بص حضراتكم يعني هو لما بنقول functional food this is not يعني functional food as a definition this is not to be related to non-functional food. لا ده كأنه هو الكرايتيريا بتاعته هو functional food. لكن حضرتك لما ذكرت examples مهمة جدا اللي هي high biological value low biological value this is for example if a food is supplying us with all what we need in the amount that we need according to the developmental stages that we are in this is high biological value. So this is different. لكن كلمة functional لا يقابلها non-functional. This is functional as if هم حطوا يعني الديفينيشن للفود ده ان هو ده functional لان هو بكل الكرايتيريا اللي احنا قلنا عليها وكمان it's associated with health benefits. ده الفانكشنال فود. لكن harmful food I can tell you مثلا حضرتك عارف ال AMDR اللي هي ال Accepted Macronutrient Distribution Range بيقولوا للناس ايه ممكن تاخدوا من 20 ل 35% من الكالوريز بتاعتكم فات بس اوعوا تاخدوهم ساتيوريتد فات خدوهم اوميجا 3 اوميجا 6 ما تكتروش في الاوميجا 3 في الاوميجا 6 خلوا بالكم الاوميجا 3 اوميجا 6 لازم تبقى في الريشيو دي. في حاجات معينه فعلا harmful زي ساتيوريتد فات وزي الترانس فات زي يعني اي انيمال فود ان جنرال لو ريد ميت مثلا مفضل عليها الفيش دي حاجه تانية بقى خالص بقى. لا دي حاجه تانية اللي هي التوكسيسيتي فور فود الواحد ده عمل مثلا في contamination او في over consumption او صح hypervitaminosis فعلا فعلا يا دكتور صح فعلا فعلا. لكن يعني functional food يعني is not to be related to that the other foods are not functional. لا هم في الاول قالوا كل الفود exert certain function but we will call functional, we will call a food functional if it's 1 2 3 4 and it is associated with a health claim.
Functional, look for its effect. Depends on the selection of the patients or selection of the group of people that you will going to test this effect on them, whether they are healthy, they are diseased. And to look for these things, of course, you have to give also the daily recommended allowance. And the daily recommended allowance will differ between the small aged group and the mid-aged group and the old-aged group. All these things has to be standardized to understand, to see whether this food will give the expected results that we are talking about or not.